So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a sunshine episode of PAR Real Talk. On the show, as you know, we bring in different people from all over, from different walks of life, to come and tell us about what they do, inspire us about their creativity. So, without further ado, if I can get my guest, I can get you to please introduce yourself, tell us your
Sure.
name, tell us where you're from, and
Yeah.
what you do.
Okay. Thank you, Pelly. So my name is Suman Mysore, and I'm from originally from India. So I've been studying civil engineering for most of my life, and I decided to travel to the United States to do my master's in civil engineering, and that's where my journey in the power transmission industry started, as most people call it as energy sector. So I moved here. I graduated my from undergrad in 2009, and I moved here in 2011. I wanted to make sure I get a couple experience from a maturity standpoint to make sure I'm making the right decisions. So I moved here in 2011 and then graduated in 2012 and started working in 13. And I've been in this industry ever since. So it's been about 10, 11 plus years since I've been in this industry. So yeah, it's been great, and I love working here. And yeah, I wanted to. Well, I hope folks looking at this enjoy our discussion. So
Perfect. That's really, really grand. I like that. So in the power industry,
yeah,
we know it in the whole world. This is one thing that we all, well, even if you live under the rock, you know what
yeah,
we're talking about.
yeah,
So could you break down exactly what it is you do in within this industry?
yeah. So as you know, power, since I think Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, they were really prime examples of giving us or discovering electricity for us. So it started from there, and then it started to enlarge into a much more evolved industry where people started to use basic equipment and run their homes with lights and machines and everything. So at one point of time, you just needed electricity for your basic necessities. But over time, you have seen this whole carbon issue and the whole Green New Deal that people's talking about, and we want to the all governments across the world want to reduce the carbon footprints of general power generating, whether it's stations or the power delivery lines itself. So to do that, you need an alternate source of energy because all these days we've been using fossil fuels from the ground, and that's creating a lot of pollution in onto the to the Mother Earth, if I may say so. And what that's doing now is in search of this alternate fuel, one of the best things it's been hiding right under our nose is the renewable source of energy. So that's wind, solar, water, all these three being main. So in over time, I think in the last 5 years, especially, as you know, when this company Tesla started to pick up with their EV vehicles, Elon Musk started to show how we can make a difference with reducing the carbon emissions with vehicles. So that was step one. So you can encourage people to buy, you can say, pseudo luxury electric vehicles. At the same time, you can also help the entire world reduce the pollution. And you can isolate these carbon emission issues with just the generating stations or the power transmission networks. So with that, now we now know, okay, so let's start getting and making use of the renewable sources. But how do we do that? So one of the ways was, as you know, there are solar cells. So we had to improve that industry. So once that came into the picture, it was about, and let's say now you can generate the power with solar, water, and wind. Now the question came, how do you transmit that to different homes? So the as and when you come up with new solutions, it's like a can of worms. You keep opening up new problems, but you can that also creates more jobs. So more people who are interested in making a difference in the world in the power transmission and energy sector can also learn about this and support the community and make it a better place for everyone. Because imagine you have, if you want to achieve a pollution-free world, even if it's just your country or your town or city, you need to, from fossil fuels, let's say you're using fossil fuels for the most part of the day, if you break it down to 24-hour period,
mm,
and how do you switch from something that's carbon emission, completely carbon emission, to carbon free, which is renewable sources,
mm,
without interrupting your power source? So that was the really challenging part of this discussion. Now, with whatever grids you have going on across the world, you've seen towers and poles
mm,
in all places wherever electricity is being transmitted. How do you make sure the same renewable energy is now transmitted through that existing network without rebuilding and making it like a billion or $1 trillion mess? Because not all countries have that luxury to spend billions and trillions of dollars or pounds. So so that's where the problem started, and that's where I come in. I come in with the different kinds of innovative solutions, and we talk to our clients and say, you can do this and you can do that, and value engineering is one of it. So if they give us a certain budget, we try to do our best to make the solutions as sustainable as possible. Because as you see across the world, there's so many of these hurricanes and tsunamis and earthquakes happening. How do you make sure that these structures don't keep falling apart every time something like this happens?
yeah,
So we
mm,
need to engineer something that can withstand those kind of atmospheric or nature calamities. So
mm.
yeah, sorry if I've been rambling, but yeah,
No,
that's the
no,
gist
no,
of it. So, it's such a vast topic. So, so
it's a full-on answer, and like you can tell that you're really into it, which
yeah, yeah.
so for me, originally coming from Nigeria,
Hmm.
I think it's one of the biggest problems even till now,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
electricity. And
Hmm.
without electricity, if you're in the dark, how can you evolve? How can
Yeah.
you can feel you're going to educate people when they
Hmm.
don't have electricity to learn anything? So
Yeah.
it's a big problem. So
Hmm.
do you feel like this is an available source of energy for everyone in the world, or is it just still for the rich people?
Oh, no way. I definitely think it is available for everyone, because if you think about from a civil engineering and electrical engineering standpoint, it's basically physics. So anybody who can get the basic education, even in school, can apply those fundamentals and start helping the country or the community in constructing this. Now, what does become challenging is, let's say you do want to replace those existing old, really old 50, 100-year transmission lines or substations that you have in your country. Materials definitely becomes an issue. So I think that's where the government needs to play a role in giving opportunities for different vendors from all over the world to be able to come in and provide you with that market where you can choose from different vendors.
Mm,
So you're not, the vendors are not monopolizing their opportunity. And
mm,
now that trickles down to people because they're going to increase the cost of the electricity. So
mm,
here are some people saying, I want to make a difference for my country or my city or town, but at the same time, most of the salary that they get is going as part of their payment to electricity bills.
mm,
So
mm,
so there are a lot of factors that play into it, but I certainly don't believe that this avenue is only for the rich. It's for everyone. For example, so many people who are in with working with me right now, they're initially financially they were not doing that well at all. But now that they've worked so hard and they know the fundamentals so well, and the more they can contribute it, people across the community within this industry recognize them. So they come, they get more opportunities, and when they get more opportunities, they get to create more jobs because they come up with solutions, and you need someone to execute those solutions. So one after the other is like building blocks. So you can make it a really successful avenue to place your needs and make it a career out of your skills and
mm.
knowledge.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
From from the way you're talking, it kind of seem like you wear different hats, like for
Yeah,
different, you know.
that is
So
true. Yeah.
are we here as you, if somebody wants this solar or they want to go through this renewable energy, they
Uh-huh.
come to you? Is it for the end user or for somebody who wants to learn
Yeah.
how to do this? Do they come to you or yeah?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So what's happening with renewable right now is you have companies that are willing to lease a land from the government, like let's say some few acres. And then let's say you set up right opposite my house is this huge windmill farm, wind turbine farm,
Mm,
massive, I think probably like hundreds of wind turbines that have been constructed. So now the company invests in all of that. And from that, with the turbine, with mechanical engineering and all of those basics, they generate the mechanical force, the wind turns the blades,
yeah.
and then you convert that into electrical energy. And now you are given the opportunity to pump that electricity and join the existing grid.
Mm,
So this is where the government gives them an opportunity and they say, hey, we can give you this thing called renewable energy certificates. So if you can, so we have a goal, let's say 2030, we want to reduce the existing fossil fuel emissions by certain percentage, and we want your renewable energy, for example, wind, solar, whatever it is you're doing, you
mm,
can meet that goal. Then with these renewable energy certificates, you get subsidies and you can save on taxes and things like that, and integrating that renewable energy once it's generated into the existing grid is really challenging. That's something that everyone's discussing right now, because and AI, to be honest, is really helping us, because with AI you can build what is called a smart grids, and you won't believe it, but just 5 years ago, if you were generating, let's say, renewable energy, let's say solar,
mm,
at the generating power plant, you actually had a person go there and write down how much of energy is being generated, or like electricity or power is being generated. And
mm,
then he needs to submit that to a renewable energy board. And it takes months for them to say, okay, this is the amount of certificates you get. And
mm,
this is the amount of carbon emissions that is currently being emitted by the existing sources. So
mm,
it was really complicated. And by the time that source comes to your house, you have no idea of where your source is coming from. Where is this electricity coming from?
mm,
So what AI is helping us do with smart grids is you can now seamlessly switch between carbon emissions and renewable energy sources. So, and they're using energy storage, just like a battery, but a bigger system. You
mm,
can um, have smaller, you can have bigger batteries, and they can store the energy from renewable energy sources. And let's say you are consuming the renewable energy and you run out of that because it's summer or winter, everyone's using air conditioning or heater,
mm,
and you're charging your vehicles, all these, right? And now you run out of the power. So now you cannot shut it down. People are going to go crazy if you shut down power, saying we don't have any more power. So
yeah.
how do you seamlessly change it? So that's where AI comes in and it says, okay, you hit this threshold. We can no longer use renewable energy. Let's go back to storing energy. So it shuts down that system completely. And then it
Mm,
turns on the regular fossil fuel or coal generation
mm,
that's being stored, or that's being waited to be pumped out, or it's already been in the network. So they can just divert that into these grids that don't have renewable energy anymore, and they
mm.
can start providing those new sources now. So you have a seamless energy connection. So
That's really, really cool. But there was, so because I studied engineering myself, and
mhm.
I did go into putting all these solar things together just to power a
Yeah.
lamp in the house, just to see, can I do it? Well, yes, I can. So next bit, okay, now let's think of, I said it already. I'm from
Yeah.
Nigeria. Let's go Africa. This place
Yeah.
got constant, infinite of sunshine. Why can't
Yeah.
we put a solar there? Um, but so one of the problems that I found out about that is that they don't have a grid system like that. So you can't feed back into the grid like we
Yeah. Yep.
can. Okay?
hmm
So then you
Yeah.
have to have lots of storage, you have to have lots of batteries, and with
Yeah,
that comes the additional problem of then you could set your house on fire.
that's true. That's true. Yes, yes.
So, so when you're talking about your business, are
Mm-hmm.
we looking more at the Western world where we know we can feed back into the grid? Are we actually
Yes.
look the solutions for all these African countries,
Yeah.
as well, where I
Yeah.
feel, if we talk about solar, we'll go to where the sun is. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think for develop, that's been a really major difference between developing and developed countries. That technology is the main difference. That's where I feel countries like UK, USA, all the European countries are kind of a little bit ahead of all the developing countries. But one thing I do feel, especially in countries like Africa, there's a lot of land. So if we can somehow leverage I explain that to the government and say, hey, you know what, we can use we don't need sources from the ground to pump oil and pump coal and to get the electricity. We can use the sunlight to generate this. We have a lot of land and the population is not as much across the African countries. So if they can get certain amount of funding for that, you have so many companies across the world willing to come in and set up those solar farms, as they call it, and start the generation. So all then you would need to do is the maintenance of it. So these companies can even come, like for example, the company I work at right now, Barnes and McDonald, that's a multinational company. They will support governments across the country whenever they need all these new substations or generation equipment to keep the power on in everybody's homes. So that again comes down to what the policies, regulating policies are. If the market in your country or in any of the African countries are deregulated or regulated, and so those policies are need to be made by the government authorities accordingly. So I think that also comes down to what kind of government structure there is. So a lot of things start adding up too. So if you can get the funding from the government, then I think that's where the gates open up, and you have so many people willing to come in and make a huge difference to the country. Because just with power, you can jump from developing your GDP as a country can go up big time just with that. So you don't have scheduled power cuts. In India, I'll tell you, even right now, we have scheduled power cuts. Like we have constant power going on, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, you know what? From 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., no power for anyone. You guys gotta just stay without power. So use candles or use your flashlights to use whatever you want. So that's still an issue in India. So with these renewable energy, you have it's like a massive gift to the humanity. You can have smaller energy storage boxes within your home. You can have solar panels above your home, and you can have electricity just for your home. So whenever the government needs to cut it off because it's not sufficient electricity, you can turn on your own energy batteries to support you. So
That
yeah.
is really, really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, we're talking about obviously the government supporting the idea. It's
Hmm.
clear actually that this is what needs to be done. It makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I'll use a place like Nigeria, of course, that I know.
Hmm.
Um, so there's things like oil, which is big money spinner.
Yep. Yep.
You feel like it's these all things that are actually the barrier because
Hmm.
of the sources that are already there. They're
Yeah.
already, maybe creating jobs or creating, making some people
Yeah.
multimillionaires. Or,
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
these are the barriers that we're facing, or do you face different type of barriers in your job? Well,
Yeah, I would say honestly, in my market right now that I'm in, the major barrier, we have the technology, we have the funds, we have all of that. What we don't have is the resources to execute that. So people come in with all these innovations, and there are so many of these journals that are contributing to, they're proving it on their theoretically saying that if we do this, then we can achieve this. But there are no people to execute that. So that is one of the main reasons in developing countries, they invite immigrants who are skilled to come in and contribute to what they're trying to achieve, and that can turn into a mutual benefit to both like Nigeria or India and USA and Europe, because you can learn all these technologies, you can get the contacts, and you can go back to that country or even start its globalization. So you can communicate and start merging with the companies existing in Nigeria or India and do the exact same thing, because we have the people, we can teach them, they're ready to work hard, but we don't have the technology in developing countries. So I think if the East and the West come together, that can make a massive difference with respect to um, uh, uh, revolutionizing their power grids. Because as you can see, AI is evolving really fast. So, and the threat is also increasing at the same pace. So if any of the countries, whether developed or developing, doesn't matter, if they stay back saying, hey, you know what, I think AI is dangerous, then there will be some country, like there's been so much talks going on. China is investing so much in AI that they can do things that we can't even imagine right now. So, but to run that kind of AI, you need power. So you need data centers, and you need to construct that, and you need huge hundreds of megawatts of power constantly generating. So your AI, GPT as they call it, as we all know, Chat GPT, it requires a lot of power to run that. So so right now, what's happening is you can get solutions really fast because of AI, but you don't have people, enough resources to execute that. Unlike IT or software, you can ask AI to do the coding itself, but when it comes to actually developing infrastructure for a country, you need people, because you need to understand the country's policies, the regulatory frameworks, and you got to also satisfy the governments in different ways. So, but I think we can come over the barriers. It's the only thing is we need to have an open mind, and we need to um, invite and have an open discussion with both the developed and developing countries. I think that's a very doable thing.
No, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because as we said, like problem shared is problem solved. So
Yes. Yes.
it's a problem that it's going across the whole world. It's a bit
Yeah.
like or it's deeper because this is one that is looking to bring the end to the world.
Yeah.
This carbon
Yeah.
emission, and everybody is talking about more the sort of first world countries. And
Mm-hmm.
the third world countries, they still, I suppose, they're hungry to be
Yeah.
thinking about to be
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
solar
Yeah.
or carbon emissions. But until when these big powers come together and know, okay, yeah, we really want to do it, let's put our things together, let's make it
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah. Yes.
I really like that message right there.
Right. Right.
And and just before we kind of go too far,
Mm-hmm.
before we forget this,
Mm-hmm.
where do people go and find you? Do you have social media? Do you have a website, or
Yeah.
where somebody wants to
Yes.
get advice, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a website. I'm actually going to change the name soon, but right now it's called Trident, TRIDENTENGS.com. So that'll give you my entire portfolio, what I've achieved so far, and there's my LinkedIn profile there, Instagram profile there, and there's a place where you can message me, and I get an email if you want to connect, and I'd certainly be interested. I wanna discuss how we can solve not just the country where I live, the issues of that, but the entire world, because it does make sense if just we have to come together to solve these issues, because we all live in the same earth. So if one country, let's say the US, does a great job with carbon emissions, bring that down, but they don't help the rest of the world, if the earth is gone, then the US is gone too. So I think we have to work together here. So we have to keep away the mindset of developing and developed countries. We are humans. We all want to live a prospering life. We all want good things for our families. So we want to come together. But yeah, you can always reach out to me on the tridentengs.com, and I'll be happy to connect with you all.
That is perfect. That's really, really good. We have to reach out because there's
Yeah.
so much to go from there.
Yeah.
Uh, if somebody now think, oh, you know what, I've been thinking about this prospects of solar, blah blah blah, but I'm not too sure about it.
Uh-huh.
So as a sort of general person,
Oh,
what advice would you give them? So it's just a normal person thinking, "Oh, I want to do solar. Is it something to pursue or
you mean as a career?
yes, as a career, yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there, over time, I think in the past decade or so, there are companies who focus. You can have a regular degree. You don't have to have a separate. There are no separate degrees, to be honest. I think if I know in US, there's only one university called University of Wisconsin that help you understand the transmission engineering industry. But otherwise, you can just have basic degrees like civil engineering or electrical engineering. And what these companies want to hear is what are you interested in? If you're really interested in solar, how do you plan to create that impact in the society? So I would suggest do that with so much of internet and sources these days. Do that research beforehand before you start applying to these companies, and they're really well-paying companies too. So they have the land. They have, again, like I said, there are no resources. They're definitely looking for so many people to come and contribute. So if you're really interested, you can certainly just have those basic degrees and submit a profile, or you can have. There are so many headhunters these days. They can do the talking for you with these companies and say, "Look, I have a great candidate. He can do a lot. This guy is a genius, and or a girl is a genius," and they can come in and set up an interview. And yeah, I'm sure that'll be possible. Yeah, that's the most easy way, I feel. So
It's just really, really cool for anybody out there who is thinking about it.
yeah,
Just go for it.
yep.
And yes, so time is kind of going.
No
Any
problem.
final remarks from you?
No, I think it was really great talking to you. I know, I've heard a lot about Power Race Radio. I did Google them. So I think you're doing a fantastic job talking to so many people, giving us folks like me a voice, to be honest. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, if you want to talk more, please let me know. I'd be happy to hop on a call again. But other than that, you're awesome host. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Suman.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
we will definitely be catching up again soon
Yes,
because
yes.
fascinating project and
Hmm.
it's only the beginning. So yeah,
Yes,
we
yes,
would love to catch up again
yes,
anytime,
absolutely.
please.
Yes.
But until then, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much,
Take
Kali.
care.
Thank you. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Power Ace Radio.